Well, I've made the call last week to nobody's attention that we need to form a new political party. And I've argued that I believe that Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson should head the ticket. I know most parties rise up from the bottom, reform parties especially. That's another issue. But obviously, that's not what happened with Trump. Trump started at the top and then pressured to change Congress and the Senate using his own power to do so. That's why I advocate for something that would represent a top down change in the parties, and that is Candace Owens, who's a conservative, and Tucker Carlson, who's also a conservative, who have what I consider to be progressive views. And I mean progressive in the terms of the progressive like Teddy Roosevelt was well over 100 years ago with the Bull Moose Party. Anyway, what I want to get to here is not that at all. It is if we don't form a new political party, this is what's going to happen. I've predicted things in the past. You can look at some of my earlier, 10-year-old videos on, for instance, Hillary Clinton, and how the fact is that she would never be elected president because she couldn't give up the money that she gets from her corporate friends, her banking friends, her banker friends. Remember, she's a senator from New York State, so that means that she is basically ruled by them. And you'll see that everybody who's been involved in New York politics has been for a long, long time controlled by the bankers, and that's not a good group of people because they're not really worried or concerned about the working people of the United States. So back to my main point. What is going to happen if we do not form a new political party, which will include those on the left and the right who want to disinfect the country from Zionist control? And no, I don't mean Jewish control. I mean Zionist control. There's a difference. I've already spoken about that, and I'm not going to speak about it again right now because I want to stick to the point here. What's going to happen is what's going to happen is that the Democrats once again will win, and this is what happens back and forth all the time: is the Republicans get into power, they lie, they cheat, they steal, and everybody's disappointed, so they don't vote for them. And then the Democrats get in, and then the Democrats do exactly the same thing. They lie, they cheat, they steal, and they clutch their pearls and they do their alligator tears about, gee, we really wanted to reform things, but those bad old Republicans wouldn't let us. You saw that under Obama a lot of excuses used for why they didn't reform. Maybe not understanding also that Obama's never been a liberal of any kind, other than maybe a little bit socially, but economically, politically, he's very much a conservative. Anyway, back to my point. And I know I divert a little bit from that point because I'm new at this, and I have other things to say, and a lot of them kind of stick out while I'm saying the main point that I'm trying to say, which is the Democrats will win again, not because anybody likes the Democrats, but that's what the way they will read it. They will read the intent of it being, oh, you like us again. You see that Donald Trump, he was a bad guy, and we're the good guys. Nothing could be further from the truth. Both of these parties run and do their thing at the behest of, and the requirements of, and the permission of, I think that's what behest means, the powers that be, the elites. Now, who are the elites? I mean, primarily the banking institutions in the world. Secondarily, the tech institutions who are controlling the so-called, as they like to call it, security apparatus and monitoring of people. And they also control the market system. And what I mean by the market system is who purchases what, who knows about who purchases what, and who knows about you and me and everybody else. Those people are in charge of the entire, popularly known as the deep state. That's not going to change without a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Now, I'm not saying it has to be violent, but it certainly has to be more than somebody like an inept, second-rate human being like Donald Trump being in power. And you see what they did to him. They blackmailed him because of his sexual practices. And if it's not obvious to you, that's too bad by now that you don't realize that he's being steered around by the Israelis and also the right-wing Zionists in the United States and around the world, who, by the way, outnumber the Jews by about 4-1. In other words, there's about 4 times as many, or maybe even 5 or 6 times as many Christian Zionists as there are Jewish Zionists. So if we don't get a new party, the Democrats will come back into power and they'll do exactly what they've always done. They will try to rig the system again, like the Republicans do, to try to stay in power and prevent anybody from reforming that. You saw what they did to Bernie Sanders. They completely just obliterated him once it was determined that he was going to win back in 2016, when people like Joe Rogan and myself and well, not me, I wasn't famous. Nobody knows who I am, but very good people decided they'd probably vote for Bernie Sanders if he got nominated. Well, of course, he didn't get nominated because the Democratic Party has a far less democratic primary system than the Republicans do, and that's how Donald Trump got in. He got in because the Republicans are more trusting of their delegates, trusting of the political system that they have developed, far more than the Democrats are. The Democrats, they fear their so-called progressive, their as they call them, activists, like Wasserman Schultz down in Florida will tell you, they kicked her out for a while and then they brought her back in. Nancy Pelosi will tell you they never kicked her out, but she's going to probably die in office. And then AOC, who we thought was a reformer until she realized that what she really wants is power. And she's got enough natural charisma, as it were, to get herself 10, 15 million followers. And so what I'm telling you is there is no reform in the structure of either party. There's no potential for that. Even Bernie Sanders has turned into a mouth for the Democratic Party. He even gave them my mailing addresses because he knew I was one of the better donors there. And so for years, the Democrats bugged me to send them some money. And I explained to them very carefully and loudly as I could, I was not interested at all in the Democrats because they sold out American working people. And I'm not interested in the Republicans either because they do exactly the same thing. So what will happen if we do not form a new party and make some compromises with each other within that party to leave alone things that are divisive, but come to agreement on the things that we know are important? Secure borders, getting rid of H-1B programs unless they actually benefit the nation. And that's not what they're used for. They're not used for that. They're used to get cheaper labor, indentured labor into the United States for, I'd say, skilled jobs, but not the top skilled jobs. We can still have an H-1B program for that. That needs to be rewritten. A lot of things need to be done that both sides can agree on. We do need to bring back good industry to the United States. We do, in fact, need to continue with the green energy renewable program, but we don't need to trip over ourselves and destroy ourselves and our security by reaching for it and doing it in a stupid way. We have to have more honorable people in that party that are motivated by love of country, love of the concept of democracy. Uh, excuse me, love of concept of the republic. So I can give it to both sides, democracy and representational government that represents you and me. If we don't do this, this will go on and on and on. And the problem is not only the things that are coming to the cusp right now, the things that are coming within the next few years, the technical developments that are coming in security, in identifying you and me, tracking everybody, in many, many more job losses on the horizon. Neither party that currently exists has any plan to address that and what we're going to do with people. Now, I propose that we agree that we're going to do some kind of a system where we're keeping the people busy by, let's say, building infrastructure, doing a lot of things that the robots who are going to take over a lot of stuff and the AI is going to take over can't do. Rebuilding things, building things, new bridges, new roads. There's a lot of stuff we could do as a country, but we need to develop an employment plan. We need to cut the working time down to maybe 3 or 4 days a week, 30 hours a week, maybe 32 hours a week. So that half the time you have free time or vacation time or spending time, if you have the money to go out to the restaurants and go out to vacations in Europe, and they can come here and do all of the stuff that we always do. But we need to reduce the amount of hours that is a standard work week. If we don't do that, again, I think that was something that actually Bernie Sanders mentioned recently, and I've been advocating it for many years. If we don't get a new party and we don't propose such radical changes to our working system, our economic system, and frankly, our political system, so that we can go back to a paper ballot, so that we don't have the security apparatus in the United States and the elites of the world manipulating our votes after they've already been cast, by the way. There's a lot of things we can agree on. There's a lot of things we're not going to agree on, and we can leave those out of the party structure. We can definitely leave those out of the party structure. Even if you think about on the left, you've got Bernie Sanders, and some of his things are silly, and then you got on the right, you've got somebody like Fuentes, Nick Fuentes, who has some seriously uninformed ideas about race and et cetera. So, but there are great ideas that he has, great ideas that Bernie Sanders have, and both have one thing in common, and that is they love their country. They want it to do better. They want to get rid of the deep state, or at least manage it better, and stop fighting all of the wars. I asked AI the other day, even the one I don't trust, which is Gemini, the Google's Gemini AI, who was in conference with the rest of these guys. They were all kissing Trump's ass at a big table. I remember that, where he was talking about all the high IQ people that were in the room. Well, they're not necessarily high IQ people. They're just lucky people. Anyway, I won't go off on that. But what I will say is that their plan is not a good one. It's not a good one from you or me. They, frankly, most of them being pathological sociopaths, they don't really look for benefiting anybody but themselves. So if we're going to have planning done, it can't be done by bleeding heart liberals, but it also can't be done by sociopaths and psychopaths of the corporate type. We've got to have a plan that's balanced out, that realizes that you cannot continue to destroy the Black communities and Black society by deleting men from their roles as husbands and fathers and breadwinners. That was done back with the creation of the Great Society. And from that period, if you listen to Professor Sowell and you believe any of his ideas, it's really destroyed Black communities and created a strange situation where the men are just move away, and the women are combative, aggressive, and full of blame for everybody around them, and they don't raise their children in a balanced way. I know that's all racism, and I'm full of shit and all of that. Yes, it's what I observe. It's what I see. I watch the cop program sometimes, and I have been amazed at how combative the women are in that society. And being one that was fiancé to a Black woman back in the 70s, I know a little bit about Black society. Even some of my friends were Black back then. I'm living in a very white bread community now, so I don't have a lot of Black friends. I don't have any Black friends up here. But in any case, back to my point, I'm warning you, if we do not create a new political party that can accept some compromises regarding the divisive issues and move on with the ones that unite us, we're going to end up with another series of the Democrats taking over, making promises, and then they will design the structure so they cannot possibly fill those promises. They've been doing that for a long time. It works well for them. That's why people like Nancy and Schumer are still in power after many, many, many decades of being in power. They all die in office. I guess they got Feinstein out. Did they get her out before she died? And then they replaced her with Shifty Schiff. So again, these parties are useless. If we don't create a new party, that's what's going to happen. The other thing that we need to do is we need to get rid of the Zionist poison that is insidious and rooting itself deep, deep, deep into the deep state and into all of our political and community, our media. They're now trying to reach into the new media, and if we don't do something about that and root them out, identify, at least initially, sunlight is the best disinfectant. So number one is shine a light on who they are. Number two is expose those who take money from them, whether it's, here's the trick that's going to be played now. They're going to move away from the AI PAC, the American Israeli Friendship Political Action Committee, or whatever it's called, and they're going to move into being allowed to get money from other right-wing Jewish organizations. And so they're going to say, oh yeah, AIPAC, oh yeah, I don't take any money from AIPAC, and they're going to end up taking it from elsewhere. You see some unity between the Young Turks, Blumenthal and his guys, Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, both on the left and the right, and they do agree on so much, and it's so promising to see them agree on so much. And I did mention Candace Owens earlier. It's another one where they agree on so much. And you've got Katie Halpert or Halpern. You have, just throw the name out there, Greenwald is another one. They have a lot of agreement with each other. I think the first thing they would do was probably free Snowden and pardon him, because the Israelis were happy that we pardoned the guy who stole all the nuclear secrets and gave them to the Russians, the Jewish guy. You remember him, Pollard, and all of the child molesters, etc., that they free or they actually protect, that have gone to Israel because they've got the right of return after the crime. Anyway, if we don't do this, I'm going to predict nothing will change and things will just get worse. That's it. That's about my 20 minutes. That's all I'm going to do today. And I hope you understand we've got to push these people to do this. Bye for now.